of rock music has died at the age of 52. He had a heart attack at his home in Nashville, Tennessee, and died in hospital shortly afterwards.
What if the most powerful truths were never written into the songs? What if the man whose voice could stop crowds, whose melodies spoke of heartbreak, longing, and quiet hope, was hiding a burden so heavy that even those closest to him could not see it? He was adored by millions, yet silently haunted. They called him the voice of emotion, a man who could make hearts shatter with a single note. But what if that voice was actually his way of screaming for help? Tonight, we embark on a journey into the life of Roy Orbison, the man behind the dark glasses, the soaring voice, and the heartbreaking stories. A man whose music became timeless, yet whose personal life was a tapestry of tragedy, resilience, and untold truths. Roy Kelton Orbison was born on April 23, 1936, in Vernon, Texas. He was the middle child among three brothers, growing up in a family shaped by the lingering shadows of the Great Depression. His father, Orbie Lee Orbison, worked as an oilfield driller but struggled to find steady work, while his mother, Nadine, was a gifted poet and artist. The Orbison family traced its roots to Ireland, with a great-great-grandfather emigrating to Pennsylvania from Ligon in the 1700s. By 1942, the family relocated to Fort Worth, Texas, where his parents found employment in aircraft manufacturing. Roy, who had poor eyesight from birth, began wearing thick spectacles at the age of 4. His love for music emerged early. On his 6th birthday, he received a guitar from his father and quickly learned to play alongside his father and older brother. By age 7, Roy was convinced that music was his true calling, a belief that would define his life. Influenced by country legends like Hank Williams and Jimmie Rodgers, and enamored with the style of Lefty Frizzell, Roy began performing publicly at 8, singing on a local radio station. By the next year, he was hosting his own weekly program on KVWC radio after winning a contest. Eventually, the family settled in Wink, Texas, a town Roy famously described as sand, oil, grease, and football. While other children played sports, Roy preferred to strum his guitar during recess. Feeling self-conscious about his naturally blonde hair, he dyed it black, adding a subtle layer of rebellion to his young persona. In 1949, at just 13, he formed his first band, the Wink Westerners, with classmates. Their music spanned country, western swing, and jazz, drawing inspiration from Glenn Miller. Weekly television appearances and morning radio shows gave Roy a taste of life in the public eye. Yet, practicality was never far behind. In 1954, after high school, he enrolled at North Texas State University to study geology, a backup plan in case music didn't work out. But his focus quickly shifted to music, and the classroom lost its appeal. The defining moment came with the discovery of the song Ooby Dooby. By 1955, Roy had dropped out of college to join the Teen Kings and pursue his musical ambitions. It was also during this period that he met Claudette Frady, who would become his first wife. After legal hurdles and court battles, the Teen Kings, who shared a roster with legends like Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley, signed with Sun Records. Ooby Dooby reached number 59 on the Billboard charts, selling over 200,000 copies, a modest success, but it laid the foundation for Roy's extraordinary journey. But what if the defining moment of his stardom didn't happen on stage, but in a small, dusty Texan home at just 6 years old? And what if the personal struggles that shaped his voice remained hidden from the world? By the mid-1960s, Roy Orbison seemed to have it all. A beautiful wife, Claudette, who inspired his breakout songs, and a career filled with hits. On the surface, everything appeared idyllic. But life behind the spotlight was far more complex. As Roy's career accelerated, cracks began to appear. A shocking betrayal from a contractor working on the family home, someone closer than he could have imagined, shook his trust to the core. Yet, Roy maintained his composure publicly, handling the situation with quiet dignity. The marriage that had once felt unshakable began to falter. By spring 1965, Claudette and Roy were divorced, a heartbreaking outcome for both the couple and their fans. Claudette had been his muse, his confidant, and in many ways, his soulmate. Despite the pain, life found a strange rhythm. Claudette and Roy shared the joy of parenthood and, remarkably, remarried in December 1965. This reunion seemed like a fairy tale, offering hope that love could prevail despite betrayal and heartbreak. Yet, as history would reveal, life had more cruel twists in store for Roy. How does a man sing of heartbreak while enduring it in silence? What hidden strength allowed him to endure such personal tragedies while the world only saw a composed and charming performer? By 1966, Roy's life appeared stable. He had reunited with Claudette and continued to rise as a performer. Yet, tragedy lurked in unexpected forms. Roy had developed a passion for motorcycles, inspired by friends like Elvis Presley. On June 6, 1966, a routine ride from Bristol, Tennessee, turned catastrophic. A pickup truck collided with Claudette's motorcycle, and she was thrown through the air. She suffered a fatal liver injury and passed away at just 25 years old. The death of Claudette shattered Roy. Songs like "Oh, Pretty Woman" were inspired by their love, yet the loss left a permanent scar, turning his music even more melancholy. The tragic irony was clear: he sang of longing, love, and heartbreak while experiencing it all firsthand. Music became both refuge and lifeline. Roy and collaborator Bill Dees worked on The Fastest Guitar Alive, a project that would combine his musical talent with acting. But the unconventional film failed commercially, and the disappointment deepened the chasm between his artistic aspirations and public reception. By 1968, life had dealt Roy Orbison another devastating blow. On September 14, his Hendersonville, Tennessee, home caught fire. Two of his children, Anthony and Roy Jr., perished in the blaze, compounding the grief he still carried from Claudette's death. The cause was suspected to be an aerosol lacquer can, but the truth offered little comfort. For a man whose music had always been a sanctuary, even that refuge failed. Friends noted a marked change in his demeanor. He became withdrawn, quiet, and creatively blocked. Johnny Cash, a close friend, purchased the burned-down home, a tragic coincidence later mirrored by another fire on the same property. Despite the agony, Roy found ways to continue. His resilience became an invisible thread running through his music and his life, allowing him to navigate despair while continuing to create. Even in darkness, life presented new light. During a 1968 UK tour, Roy met Barbara Wellhanen, a young German woman who would become his second wife. Their age difference sparked surprise among some, yet their connection provided Roy with a chance to rebuild. They married in 1969, and over the following years, welcomed two sons, Roy Kelton Jr. and Alexander, forming a new family and foundation. This chapter of Roy's life revealed his ability to rebuild and find happiness after unimaginable tragedy. While he could never replace Claudette or his lost children, Barbara and their family gave him purpose and renewed energy to continue pursuing his art. Roy Orbison's genius extended beyond the stage. His music became a lasting source of wealth and influence. Hit singles like "Only the Lonely," "Oh, Pretty Woman," and "Crying" generated massive royalties. Collaborations with the Traveling Wilburys and the release of his final album, Mystery Girl, cemented his financial and artistic legacy. Even after his death in December 1988, his estate continued to thrive. Barbara Orbison meticulously managed Roy Orbison Enterprises, ensuring his music remained relevant, reissued, and introduced to new generations. Today, his music continues to generate millions, proving that true artistry transcends mortality. Roy Orbison's iconic dark sunglasses weren't initially a fashion statement, they were a necessity. Poor eyesight forced him to wear thick glasses from a young age. In 1963, on the eve of a UK tour with the Beatles, Roy forgot his prescription glasses and had to rely on black sunglasses as a practical solution. Fans quickly embraced the look, and the sunglasses became a defining element of his stage persona. They added an air of mystery, perfectly complementing his emotionally charged performances. What began as a simple need became an enduring symbol of the man behind the music. By late 1988, Roy Orbison had reclaimed his place in the musical world. Collaborating with icons like George Harrison, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, and Jeff Lynne, he toured and recorded with the Traveling Wilburys. On December 4, he performed in Highland Heights, Ohio, delivering a powerful concert despite exhaustion. Just 2 days later, on December 6, Roy passed away from a heart attack at 52. His sudden death shocked fans and the music community alike. Memorial services were held in Tennessee and Los Angeles, attended by fans, fellow artists, and friends. His music, modest and heartfelt like the man himself, remained as enduring as the black sunglasses he wore. Roy's final album, Mystery Girl, released just weeks after his death in 1989, became his best-selling work. Songs like You Got It showcased his timeless voice and emotional depth, earning posthumous acclaim and Grammy nominations. Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 further solidified his legacy, breaking records and surpassing even Elvis Presley in posthumous chart success. Roy Orbison's music continues to thrive through compilations, reissues, and digital streaming. His sons and estate preserved his artistic and financial legacy, ensuring his songs reach new generations. The man who once sang of heartbreak and longing lives on through every note and melody. Roy Orbison's life was a symphony of triumph and tragedy. From childhood struggles to heartbreaking loss, from artistic failures to posthumous successes, his story is one of resilience and genius. His music, deeply personal and timeless, remains a testament to the man who turned suffering into art. Sunglasses, heartbreak, soaring vocals, and unforgettable songs, Roy Orbison was more than a musician. He was a storyteller, a survivor, and an eternal voice that continues to move hearts. Hit like if you're still wondering what secrets his voice was hiding, and subscribe, because in our next deep dive, we'll uncover the untold story of another legend, one whose silence spoke louder than their songs. Roy Orbison was never just a solo act, his voice had a magnetic way of blending with others, creating magic that transcended the stage. One of his most notable collaborations came with the supergroup Traveling Wilburys, alongside George Harrison, Bob Dylan, Jeff Lynne, and Tom Petty. This unlikely combination of musical geniuses could have been chaotic, yet Orbison's voice, so distinct, so full of emotion, brought cohesion to their sound. In the studio, Roy's meticulous attention to detail was legendary. He would often insist on multiple takes, fine-tuning every note until it carried the exact emotion he intended. His collaborators recalled a man who was gentle, patient, but unwavering when it came to musical integrity. Through the Traveling Wilburys, Orbison introduced his voice to an entirely new generation. Songs like Handle with Care weren't just hits, they were cultural moments. Roy's presence in the band proved that his talent was timeless, and that even decades into his career, he could hold his own alongside legends of rock and folk. Despite global fame, Roy Orbison remained intensely private. Friends and family often described him as reserved, quiet, and reflective, a man who observed life deeply before expressing it through music. Unlike many rock stars of his era, he avoided excess, preferring small, meaningful interactions over the glitz of fame. This private nature contributed to the mystery surrounding him. Fans saw the dark sunglasses, the powerful voice, and the poised stage presence, but few glimpsed the man beneath. He wrote about heartbreak and loss not as a performer seeking attention, but as a human documenting life's tragedies and triumphs. Every note, every lyric, carried the weight of personal experience. Roy Orbison's influence on music cannot be overstated. Artists across genres cite him as a source of inspiration, from Bruce Springsteen and K.D. Lang to Bono and Jeff Lynne. His signature high-pitched wails, dramatic phrasing, and emotionally charged delivery became a blueprint for singers seeking authenticity. Even decades later, the emotional vulnerability that defined his songs remains rare in mainstream music. Roy demonstrated that true artistry involves exposing your inner world, letting listeners feel the pain, joy, and complexity of life. His approach to storytelling through music influenced not only performers but also songwriters and producers, shaping the sound of modern rock, pop, and country. Throughout his life, Roy Orbison endured losses that would have crushed many. The deaths of Claudette and his children, personal betrayals, and professional setbacks created a backdrop of sorrow that he transformed into art. His music wasn't just entertainment, it was catharsis, both for him and for listeners who found their own emotions reflected in his voice. Songs like Crying in and Dreams were not simply hits, they were lifelines. Roy's ability to channel tragedy into beauty was unparalleled. And perhaps that is why his work continues to resonate. Pain, when handled with honesty, becomes universal. Roy understood this instinctively, making every note a bridge between his inner world and ours. Even after devastating personal tragedies and a changing musical landscape, Roy Orbison continually reinvented himself. When psychedelic rock and protest music dominated the charts, his classic ballads could have felt outdated. Yet he adapted, collaborating with younger artists, embracing new technologies, and experimenting with different production styles. His final studio album, Mystery Girl, exemplified this reinvention. It combined the soaring emotional depth of his early work with modern production techniques, proving that Orbison's voice was eternal and his artistry unmatched. His resilience was not just survival, it was evolution. What made Roy Orbison's music extraordinary wasn't just his voice, it was the emotional honesty of his lyrics. He wrote about love, loss, longing, and quiet hope in a way that felt intimate yet universal. Every song was a narrative, often drawing from his own life experiences, yet leaving space for listeners to find themselves within it. His lyrics weren't clever wordplay, they were confessions, stories, and reflections of a man who had seen joy and unbearable sorrow alike. This authenticity is why decades later, people still resonate with "Oh, Pretty Woman," "Only the Lonely," and "Crying." The songs are timeless because the emotions are real, not manufactured. Roy Orbison's life offers lessons far beyond music. He taught us that vulnerability is strength, that heartbreak can fuel creation, and that resilience is often invisible until tested. He also showed that identity is complex. You can be adored by millions yet struggle privately, and still leave a legacy that inspires generations. Even in his darkest moments, he never allowed despair to define him. He turned pain into song, silence into stage presence, and setbacks into opportunities to reconnect with his audience. That is the essence of Roy Orbison's genius, transforming personal struggle into universal art. Despite personal tragedies, Roy Orbison remained committed to his fans and the stage. Touring became both a livelihood and a lifeline, connecting him with audiences around the world. His concerts were known for their emotional intensity. He didn't just perform, he conveyed the very essence of the songs he sang. Audiences were captivated not only by his vocal range but also by his stage presence. Clad in black and ever-present dark glasses, Roy seemed at once mysterious and vulnerable, a paradox that drew fans closer. Whether performing in small local venues or sold-out arenas abroad, every performance carried the authenticity of someone who had lived the lyrics he sang. Beyond the traveling Wilburys, Orbison collaborated with artists who recognized his unique talent. From songwriting partnerships with Joe Melson to later collaborations with Jeff Lynne and Tom Petty, his ability to blend emotional storytelling with melody was unmatched. Orbison's influence reached far beyond his own recordings. Artists of all genres studied his phrasing, vibrato, and dramatic delivery, often citing him as a pivotal influence on their own work. He wasn't just part of the music industry, he shaped its future. While the sunglasses became his signature, they also symbolized the duality of Roy Orbison's life, public fame and private vulnerability. Behind the lenses was a man who had experienced loss, heartbreak, and professional challenges yet remained deeply human. Family and friends describe him as quiet, reflective, and empathetic. He had a subtle humor, a calm presence, and a dedication to his craft that was almost ritualistic. Despite being a global star, Roy Orbison remained grounded, carrying his private grief discreetly while delivering emotional performances that touched millions. After Roy's death in 1988, his work received renewed recognition. Mystery Girl, released posthumously, became his best-selling album and a testament to his enduring talent. Songs like You Got It showcased the emotional range that defined his career. The success of Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 further cemented his posthumous legacy. Orbison became the first artist to achieve simultaneous posthumous charting in the top 5, a feat that broke records and surpassed even Elvis Presley. His music's enduring popularity demonstrates that great artistry transcends life itself. Barbara Orbison, his wife, played a critical role in maintaining and preserving Roy's legacy. Through Roy Orbison Enterprises, she managed reissues, licensing, and archival projects, ensuring that his music reached new audiences. After Barbara's death in 2011, his children continued her work, releasing anniversary editions and previously unheard recordings. The meticulous preservation of his work has allowed Roy Orbison's music to remain relevant for generations. From streaming platforms to film soundtracks, his voice continues to inspire and resonate. His estate stands as a testament to careful stewardship, ensuring that the legend of Roy Orbison endures. Roy Orbison's music is timeless because it captures universal human emotions. Love, loss, longing, and hope, his songs reflect the deepest aspects of human experience. Crying, In Dreams, and Oh, Pretty Woman remain iconic not simply because of melody, but because of emotional truth. Each note he sang carried a lifetime of experience. Orbison's ability to communicate raw, unfiltered emotion makes his music eternally relevant. For listeners old and new, his songs serve as both comfort and inspiration, a bridge between past and present. Those who knew Roy Orbison paint a picture of a man who was kind, meticulous, and deeply human. Tom Petty recalled his humility and patience in the studio, while Jeff Lynne highlighted his meticulous approach to music. Friends remember late-night conversations, quiet generosity, and a sense of humor that often surfaced behind closed doors. These personal stories offer insight into the man behind the legend. While the public saw only the voice in the dark glasses, those close to him witnessed the heart, resilience, and creative genius that made him unforgettable. Roy Orbison didn't just influence music, he shaped culture. His songs were used in films, commercials, and television, embedding themselves into popular consciousness. Directors and producers often cited his ability to evoke emotion as a reason to include his music in storytelling. His influence can be seen in generations of musicians, from the 1980s power ballads to modern indie rock. Artists across the globe continue to study his phrasing, vocal technique, and songwriting craft. Roy Orbison's impact extends far beyond charts and sales, it permeates the very fabric of popular music. Roy Orbison's life teaches resilience, dedication, and authenticity. Despite tragedy, personal loss, and professional setbacks, he never compromised his artistry. He taught the world that vulnerability is a strength, that pain can become creative fuel, and that reinvention is possible at any stage of life. Through his journey, Roy demonstrated that legacy is not measured solely by fame or fortune, but by the emotional resonance left behind. He showed that music could heal, connect, and endure beyond the artist's own lifetime. Roy Orbison's story is one of triumph, tragedy, and timeless artistry. From his early days in Texas to international superstardom, from personal heartbreak to posthumous success, his life reads like an epic tale of resilience. He left behind a voice that continues to captivate, inspire, and comfort listeners across generations. Sunglasses, Heartbreak, and Soaring Vocals, the legend of Roy Orbison reminds us that true genius lies not only in talent but in the courage to express the depths of the human soul. No matter how much time passes, Roy's voice never stops singing. His story is an enduring testament to the power of music, the resilience of the human spirit, and the beauty of turning pain into art. Even decades after his passing, Roy Orbison remains a figure of intrigue. Fans continue to wonder about the man behind the iconic sunglasses, the voice that carried both joy and sorrow. Part of his allure lies in his mystery. Unlike many stars of his era, he never sought the spotlight outside of his music. He let his voice do the talking, leaving the world to interpret the man behind the melodies. This enigmatic quality has fueled fascination for generations. Biographers, journalists, and fans alike have tried to piece together his private life, but Roy Orbison maintained a careful boundary between public persona and personal reality. Perhaps it was this very restraint that made his songs feel so raw and intimate. He revealed everything he needed to through music, letting silence speak in moments words could not. Roy Orbison's contributions to music have been celebrated worldwide, both during his life and posthumously. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, just a year before his untimely death. Critics hailed his vocal range, songwriting skills, and emotional delivery as revolutionary. Beyond formal recognition, Orbison's influence can be seen in the countless artists who cite him as inspiration. Bruce Springsteen, Bono, K.D. Lang, and many others credit him for shaping their approach to storytelling in music. His ability to convey raw emotion, without overacting or performing for attention, became a gold standard in the industry. Awards and accolades are one thing, but the enduring respect of fellow musicians is perhaps the truest testament to his genius. Roy Orbison's music continues to thrive across generations. Streaming platforms, films, and television series have introduced his songs to millions of new listeners. His timeless hits, Crying, Only the Lonely, and Oh, Pretty Woman, remain staples of popular culture. More than just commercial success, his legacy lies in the emotional connection he forged with listeners. Every note, every lyric, resonates with authenticity and depth. The sunglasses, the high notes, the dramatic ballads, these are symbols of a man who transformed personal struggle into universal art. Roy Orbison's story reminds us that music is not just entertainment, it is an enduring expression of the human experience. He left behind a voice that will continue to echo for generations, a voice that tells a story of heartbreak, hope, and the power of resilience. Roy Orbison's voice was more than just a musical instrument, it was a vessel of human emotion. Every note carried the weight of his experiences, the heartbreak of losing Claudette, the grief of losing his children, the joys of new love, and the quiet hope that sustained him through decades of personal and professional challenges. His voice had a rare quality, it could evoke tears, smiles, and deep reflection all at once. Even today, decades after his passing, Roy's recordings resonate with an authenticity that feels immediate. Young listeners discover him for the first time, while longtime fans revisit his music with nostalgia and reverence. His ability to convey emotions so vividly has ensured that his songs transcend time and trends. The man who once hid his pain behind dark glasses and a calm demeanor has become immortal through his art. Roy Orbison taught the world that music is more than notes and lyrics, it is empathy made audible. Every listener who feels a pang of longing or a surge of joy while hearing his songs participates in the legacy he left behind. In this way, Roy Orbison's voice will never fade, it is eternal, echoing through the hearts of everyone who experiences it.